get into our previews, and we have the Bills versus the Bengals. The Bills are a -1 favorite right now, on the road to Cincinnati, which is interesting to me. It'll be this will be a good game to kind of measure how Joe Burrow like plays against all competition. Um, I I don't know. I mean, me personally, I'll take the Bengals. I'll take the Bengals to win this game.
I think this is a good game for both teams, just to straight up measure where they're at this point in the
Nah.
season. I think the Bengals have been playing well as of late. They got Jamar Chase back. Joe Burrow's been playing great. And the Bills, after a few struggles along the way this season, have been playing pretty good as of late as well. And both of these teams will be playoff teams. Um, outside of the Bills playing the Chiefs, which we know is like a must-watch TV at this point, this might be the next best, game in the AFC to watch. And yeah, -1 favorites on the road for the Bills. It's certainly a tough one to pick. I'm surprised it's not just a straight up pick 'em. But yeah, this you know it's going to be a tough game for both teams. We know they're playing in Cincinnati, even if they were playing in Buffalo. Both teams, outdoor stadiums in the
Fairly
colds
cold, yeah.
at this time of year. It's going to be one of those, tough, gritty games. And right, as on the edge of the cusp of the playoffs, it's going to be a big momentum shift for the team that wins and for the team that loses, I think.
Yeah.
If you're the Bills and you lose to the Bengals, a team that you might have to face at some point in the playoffs, that's a bit tough. And we saw, like I said, the Bills struggle enough early this year, even though they still hold one of the better records. Um, Knowing that the Bengals team that went to the Super Bowl last year just beat you, and having to gear up for that game again um, does will certainly be a factor in the future if that's the case. If they win, I mean, look, they're the favorite here. I think for the general public, they probably just roll with the Bills just because blindly, just because of the narratives around the Bills and the Chiefs, kind of always seeming like they've been the better teams throughout the year in the AFC.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, the Bengals are right there, and they're doing what they need to do. Um, yeah, definitely the game of the week for sure. At this point, there's no other games with two teams of this caliber in it, and you know, I'd probably roll with a pick 'em here. And if I had to pick, I'd probably lean towards the Bengals, literally just because they're the home team. I think if
Yeah.
this was at Buffalo, I'd lean towards Buffalo.
Yeah.
But with the Bengals being at home, I think it's that even that that's enough to move me over to the Bengals side. And as you see in football, sometimes a team like the Bills, I mean, they're going to lose some games. I think this is a game that if they lost it, like I said, it's a momentum shift, but especially if it's a close game, which I would anticipate it being either way,
Right.
I don't think they'll get too down about it. They know the Bengals are a good team. They're a solid team. Comparable records at this point. The Bengals are not that far behind the Bills, and um, yeah, certainly one of the games to watch this week.
Yeah. Next game that we're gonna go over, and definitely a game to watch, is the AFC North rivals, Steelers versus the Ravens. This is always a good game to watch. Always a lot of defense, a lot of running, a lot of grittiness in this kind of game. I believe the Ravens won the last matchup against the Steelers.
Yeah, 16 to
And
14, I believe.
yeah, and the Ravens are -2.5 favorites in this game. Something about the Steelers, they find a way to win late in the year, and I think this is one of the games that they do. Even on the road, even at Baltimore, it's. I mean, it's been pretty tough for Baltimore all the year, kind of pulling out some of these wins, kind of getting some of these like games that are they haven't had any explosions on offense recently, and I think that's where they struggle. And the Steelers kind of they feed off of that. They have a great defense. I think they do struggle to put up points as well, but I think they'll be able to do enough just to edge the Ravens, and I think it'll be definitely a close game.
Yeah, they played recently, like we talked about, with the Ravens winning by 2. Um, Last game was the Steelers were the home team. Um, I don't know. I'm kind of leaning more towards the Ravens here. We talked about how hard it is to win twice against the same team in football, but when you win already on the road, it's a lot easier to find that second win at home. And I mean, the Steelers, they're just an odd team. Um, their quarterback situation isn't the greatest right now. I mean, the Ravens either with the Lamar Jackson injuries, but uh, the Ravens just and the Steelers do as well. They kind of find a way to just win as a unit
Hmm.
sometimes. Um, and the Steelers are certainly fighting for something. They're fighting for playoff position. This is similar to it reminds me a lot of the Packers situation where they just find themselves at this point in time with the same record as a lot of teams that are fighting for the playoffs, but people are expecting more out of than the Steelers. But I don't think, similar to the Packers, I don't think the Steelers are going to be able to make it.
Yeah,
So, in my opinion, it feels like the Ravens need this win more. Even though the Steelers technically, probably want to go to the playoffs, and that would
definitely
be a
want to
huge
ruin the chances of the Ravens going
right,
to.
right. But the Ravens kind of they just need this more, and um, I just trust their team. They have Dobbins back. I think they're going to be able to take care of business here and get this win. And yeah, I just have a hard time trusting the Steelers. Steelers are one of the teams this year that I stay away from the most when it comes to betting because
Yeah, me too. Forget about it.
you just can't really put your finger on what they're going to do and how they're going to perform week in and week out. So yeah, I mean, I certainly trust the Ravens more, even with their backup quarterback. Um, and yeah, I believe the Ravens are going to get it done. And we just talked about the Bills and the Bengals. The Bengals right now are ahead of the Ravens. The Ravens are still trying to claw back. And now, obviously, if the Ravens win and the Bengals lose, which is certainly a very possible scenario here, that helps the Ravens a ton going into towards the end of the season here. But yeah, I like the Ravens. I think they'll most likely cover the spread, 2.5 point spread. We saw them win by 2 last time. It could be that type of game again. But yeah, I'd roll with the Ravens to cover the 2.5 point spread here.
Right. So the next game we got is the Jets versus the Seahawks. The Jets are the -1.5 favorite. Pretty surprising considering they're playing in Seattle. Um, Seattle has, like you said, I believe it was last week. They kind of came down to earth. They've kind of shown that they're in the stages of rebuilding, figuring stuff out still. Um, However, I think they're just Geno Smith is a better quarterback than anybody on the Jets.
Yeah,
So
this is an odd line to me. I would take the Seahawks, especially if plus any points. You get them plus 1.5 here. I take that in a heartbeat. I do not trust the Jets to win football games. Look, it's an odd position because they're actually both sitting at the same record right now.
well,
But and we saw the Seahawks go from a hot start to really, really coming back to earth here. They're the home team against a team that can't figure out who their quarterback is, but somehow they're just the favorites. I don't know, just because they have a good defense. I don't.
you
I
can say
don't.
the same about the Seahawks though. And
Um,
this is kind of like a matchup where you know how they say like styles makes fights.
right.
This is exactly what it is in a sense.
And but in this style, right? You have the better quarterback, and you have home field advantage with one of the better home field advantages in the
Entire
NFL.
league, yeah.
So I'm just gonna roll with the Seahawks here and think that they're going to be able to not just cover the spread but win the game. And yeah, I mean, look, you look at historically as well. I mean, the Jets are just a franchise that falls apart
Nah.
when they need things the most. And you can't trust the Jets as far as you could throw them. We live in New York, so we hear the chatter like Jets fans
Oh
melting
my
down,
God.
despite the fact that they've overachieved this year,
They still
right?
have even higher hopes than what they should have,
Right.
considering that they have
I think they're
overachieved.
so used to being miserable that they just can't help themselves. Um, but yeah, like I said, I like the Seahawks here. I think they win this game outright, and I'll trust in Gino before I trust whoever quarterback is throwing for the New York Jets.
Isn't that crazy to hear?
Right.
I'll trust Gino more than I trust any quarterback that's playing for the
And
Jets.
and you know what? You can look at the body of work this year,
Nah.
and it's a no brainer.
Yeah,
It's
for
it's
sure.
an absolute no brainer.
Easily.